people go out of their way to try to take care of. Like, you have to do this for the good of the community. Like, what do you think is unique to Rock Hill, and what has allowed Rock Hill to be able to sustain that across several generations?
That is a very good question. I think that the folks that have built their businesses in Rock Hill and decided this is where we're going to do it have always felt like they needed to give back to the community, and that has been the driving force. Because, I mean, we can talk about community all day long. If someone's not there to help redevelop some type of decommissioned building on White Street that's going to be probably never make money, but they know that we need to save this as a piece of the community. Having people in that mindset that have the means to do it and see that this is something that's going to be good for everyone here involved, my employees, my customers, everything else, that gives it, like you said, like it's like a tangible thing where you can feel this is something that was someone's vision that they did for the people in Rock Hill.
It's strange that wherever there's a demand, there seems to be a supply of people to step up and meet that demand.
Yeah.
And I think that's really unique to Rock Hill. I mean, I know there's other communities that have, thriving civic mindedness, but in Rock Hill, like I said, we definitely seem to punch above our weight, and there's more of it than other similarly sized towns. How are you at all concerned? Obviously, this is a high growth area. South Carolina is in general. Our property taxes are very low compared to the rest of the country, so we incentivize growth.
Right.
We incentivize, residential growth, I should say. Do you feel, or are you concerned at all about losing that advantage or losing that sense of community as people come into the area? And how do you think we can mitigate that? I promise you we're going to talk about real estate at some point.
I understand. This is like stuff that I think about, on the weekends when I'm thinking about the way the city is going and being on planning commission, right? So it's like there's always going to be this person that lives in my head that's a person that's lived in Rock Hill for 5 years and doesn't know that Winthrop is a college, doesn't know what Come See Me Festival is, has never eaten at Ebenezer Grill, like all of these kind of institutions that, the kind of old Rock Hill knows about, and the people that have moved here and gotten plugged in are a big part of, like yourself, So there's always going to be that guy that got a job in Whitehall and in Steel Creek and found a good deal on a house with lower property taxes, moved in the neighborhood. And it's like, so how do you make it where it's approachable for those people to come out and be a part of it? And I think that the job is going to be of the business owners in the city is, how do we make people aware of all the cool stuff that's happening right here? Like, you don't need to go.
There's so much.
You don't need to drive to Plaza Midwood every Friday night. You don't have to go to Elizabeth. You don't have to go to Noda. Like, we have tons of stuff here. And it's getting, there is kind of like you said, it's like we hit this critical mass of it, right? It's like we opened up the first brewery, a Legal Remedy. No one liked it. I don't even know how many
we have now.
Right? Right.
I've lost track.
Yeah, it's like you open up the first brewery, people get there. There's like, why is there no wine? Where's the Bud Light? It's like you kind of have to overcome this. And now it's to the point where, hey, there's literally people that are, for every one of those guys that has no idea about what's happening in Rock Hill, you have people moving here that are like, oh yeah, Rock Hill is great. We came to the downtown, we ate at Flipside, we went to the brewery, we went to Slow Play, we had Kaibi food truck, and it's like, this place is awesome. Like, I can't believe, there's not more communities here. And then they're like, we need a house. And it's like, well, we're still working on happen. That's the one advantage those other neighborhoods have. They have housing.
Inventory.
Well, not just inventory, but they didn't tear down all the houses around the central. And that's a separate conversation. But, that people want to be here because they figure out what's going on. And it's taken it's literally taken my entire life to figure out how to do it right, because it was like late 90s. It was, we're getting a Ruby Tuesdays, we're getting a Chili's, and we were hyped. We were hyped up.
Like, yes, at Olive Garden.
Yes, when Olive Garden came, it was like a huge deal. And and that's a national consensus, I feel like, as us millennials have gotten burned out from being raised on corporate stuff. We've gone more the other direction. But even then, it was like that was a big deal to us in Rock Hill because we were like this little
Rock Hill
town.
was on the map.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And so now we're on the map for what I think are better reasons, and people want to come here and can feel that tangible, growing, vibrant community and want to be a part of it.
So part of that was, you mentioned, of course, Come See Me, Christmasville, all these, we know them as institutions, but, they are the result of just Herculean efforts,
right,
and volunteer efforts, and businesses, writing checks. Very little tax dollars go into those things, or there's very little city resources. It's all, people volunteering their time and people volunteering their resources, and there's a line to do that. It's not, they don't look for people to come volunteer, right, to be a leader at Come See Me, or to look for people to sponsor different events. There's literally a backlog of people that want to be involved. But you mentioned it in a way, I never really thought of it the way you kind of alluded to. Those things almost exist in a way to capture the heart and mind of all these people coming into the area. So in a way, it's almost like a self-perpetuating cycle. But if we didn't have the people several generations ago who had the foresight and vision to create those things, where would Rock Hill be? So in other words, I don't really know what's the chicken and what's the egg. Do those things exist because of our civic mindedness, or are they what actually creates and captures the heart and soul and minds to create the civic mindedness?
I think that it is I think it is chicken and the egg, but I do think as well that there is, and maybe this is just because I got the, I don't even know if it's like an unofficial, but I got some type of book about Vernon Grant for Christmas from someone. And I knew who Vernon Grant was. And if you don't know Vernon Grant, he was an illustrator. He made the Snap, Crackle, Pop for Kellogg's, ended up marrying a girl from Rock Hill, moved here later in his life, started the Come See Me Festival, really actually started the Chamber of Commerce in Rock Hill, and then that kind of Come See Me kind of grew out of that. Reading about him and reading about when he moved, and he'd kind of been a playboy. He got married later in life. He lived in New York. He was kind of like being an illustrator, and I mean, like, doing Saturday Evening Post covers and, those kind of iconic Springs advertising illustrations. That was like a big hotshot job back then. Like, it was like a cool artsy job, kind of like even a step above like a Fifth Avenue Don Draper ad man. It was more like the artist, like before Andy Warhol was cool, these illustrator guys were like the cool guys, right? And reading about him coming here and seeing where he was, like, what a welcome, and even back then, and maybe it's just the history of the families that were here. And I mean, there is something to be said for that. People in Rock Hill know how to throw a welcoming party and invite everyone that comes by. So maybe him coming into that culture with his business mind, his, mentality of how can we help this entire community grow? And not only that, but I want to show all my friends from around the country how cool this place is. I think kind of really lit the spark of, that was mid timeline wise. I'm trying to think where that kind of fell in our textile history. But, it would have been
probably Bleacher
waning,
heyday.
Waning. Yeah, right about the end of the heyday, right? So, going into it and saying, come down and look at all this cool stuff that's going on. And I think it just kind of grew out of that. I mean, just the idea that, hey, there is something special in this place. We're detached from Charlotte, and even not that Charlotte was that big, but, it's always felt like I've never felt like Pineville feels in Rock Hill. I was in Pineville on Sunday, and it's like, where does Charlotte stop and where does Pineville start? It just kind of became part of the amoeba. And, thankfully Fort Mill hasn't gotten there yet, but it feels like it could as you're coming further south. But Rock Hill's always felt like it's had its own identity. And I think the people from Rock Hill have wanted to keep that identity. And I think that striving to do that is kind of birthed this, let's make sure the people that come here can be a part of this to continue keeping this place the way that it is. Yeah,
and you're right. That requires being really welcoming, and I can attest to that. I mean, I came here in 2002 to go to Winthrop University. And, immediately there were families that I didn't even know. I mean, I was, I had jobs in the community, active on campus, met a lot of people. And there were families that would say, "Oh, why don't you come over? We'll cook you a meal." So I got to know a lot of people as a 18 or 19-year-old college kid
Right.
in the community, and I just kind of fell in love with it. I thought, why would anyone want to live anywhere else when, the people here are just so welcoming and care so much about the greater community.